Alright, hello everyone. I know it has been a big fat minute since I have made a video, and I could give you 101 reasons why that is, but no one actually gives a fuck. Regardless, today what we're going to be doing is looking at Battlefield 5, and more specifically, what I want to do is re-review Battlefield 5 for 2020. Now, there is indeed a genuine reason for me doing this, not just because I want to try and capitalize on the previous video, kind of, but rather because the War in the Pacific, which was a major free content update for Battlefield 5, released after I made my original review of Battlefield 5. And the War in the Pacific has brought a lot of new players to Battlefield 5. It has mostly changed the opinion of the game. It has gone from something which everybody basically hated to something which, you know, a few people here and there like. And of course, I want to give my 2 cents on War in the Pacific and if it really does make Battlefield 5 a better game. So first and foremost, I just want to come out and say it. War in the Pacific is easily the best way to currently experience Battlefield 5. My reasoning behind this is the fact that this content expansion pack near enough solved every problem a lot of people in the community had with launch day Battlefield 5, as in little historical accuracy and tiny ass maps. Obviously, there are a boatload of other complaints which people had, but for the most part, people said that Battlefield 5 didn't feel like a Second World War game when it came out. War in the Pacific basically solves this exact issue. The maps, the guns, the factions, the voice acting, the challenges, everything feels way more accustomed to a World War II setting, and to be honest, this is how the game should have been from the offset. So first of all, let's start talking about the maps. Currently, Battlefield 5 holds 3 Japanese maps, which are Iwo Jima, Pacific Storm and Wake Island, all 3 of them being absolutely fantastic maps. Iwo Jima on Breakthrough as the Americans is what I have always wanted from a Battlefield game. Full-blown beach landings with intense fighting, cool little trumpets playing as you're on the big ass boat, and the distinct lack of gas masks, because everyone fucking hates gas masks. The Pacific maps feel genuinely refreshing and more suited to what I remember Battlefield as. Wake Island in particular is amazing for conquest, with a wide array of vehicles that allow for that sandbox gameplay which was so intrinsic to Battlefield but was lost with the launch of Battlefield 5. Playing the Pacific maps makes it near enough impossible to go back to the original game, just because of how fun these Japanese maps are. I have played the launch maps once, only one fucking time since War in the Pacific dropped, and that really does show just how much of an improvement these maps are over the vanilla Battlefield 5 experience. DICE also opted for a more accurate portrayal of the Second World War in the Pacific Theatre, whereby uniforms are near enough dead on and weapons are way more well known than before. Seeing a huge group of enemies near enough all looking the same is exactly what I wanted from Battlefield 5 in the first place, not some fancy dress party with guns. It really does go to show how much of a difference respecting history makes to immersion and enjoyment. If only DICE could implement this way of thinking to the European game, then we'd be absolutely in business. The Americans are easily the best faction in the game currently, largely due to how fucking cool the cosmetics are. Seeing a load of US troops storming off landing crafts with M1 Garand pings going off and flamethrowers burning little Japanese men to a crisp is all I've ever wanted from Battlefield 5. It feels like a Call of Duty World at War remaster, but on Frostbite. It is so hard to describe, but there is just this feeling of intensity that is not matched in the vanilla game. The maps are 100 times better, the guns are way more interesting, the cosmetics are way more realistic, the vehicles are more plentiful, the Tides of War rewards are more interesting. The War in the Pacific is just perfect, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. However, it wouldn't be Battlefield 5 if something didn't go wrong. And yes, of course, something had to go wrong. Very, very wrong. Just when we thought DICE had learned from their mistakes and were trying to make Battlefield 5 better for its community, they dropped the, dare I say it, the 5.2 patch. This patch was, fucking disgusting. It re-implemented a stripped back version of 3D spotting, something which absolutely no one asked for. DICE also nerfed a ton of guns and pretty much broke the time to kill for most weapons. Enemies feel a lot more like bullet sponges now, especially from distance with SMGs. There is just absolutely no damage whatsoever. DICE states that it's to try and change up the meta, you know, try and get people to use different guns, and I get that. That makes sense, but I don't know what they managed to do, but it just felt disgusting. The release of 5.2 was supposed to be this big ass update that changed the Battlefield 5 experience, but instead it was an update that just basically fucked Battlefield 5 in the arse. Everyone in the community hated it, everyone was pushing DICE to revert it, and although DICE did make an effort to fix some of the time to kill, to rebalance some of the weapons, and yes, they did get rid of the 3D spotting, the game is still not as good as it was before the 5.2 update. And it is a real shame because the Pacific maps pre 5.2 were honestly the purest version of Battlefield 5 to date. Don't get me wrong, you know, the game is definitely playable in its current state, but if you experienced Battlefield 5 before the 5.2 patch, then you will definitely miss what used to be. However, for new players or players who just don't really give a fuck about what once was, it doesn't detract from the experience too much to warrant me saying stay the fuck away. Just keep it in mind though that people absolutely hate the 5.2 update, and if you still go on the Battlefield 5 subreddit, there are a ton of people asking DICE to revert it. There are still a ton of memes basically slamming the update and DICE themselves. It was a bit of a shit move, I guess you could say. But with all things considered, is Battlefield 5 worth a purchase in 2020? Yes, I recommended Battlefield 5 even before the Pacific Theater dropped, and with the maps now all available, I can roid up that recommendation by at least 10 times the size. War in the Pacific is exactly what Battlefield 5 should have been at launch. If only DICE chose to develop the Pacific as Battlefield 5's launch content, then the game would truly be hailed as one of the best Battlefield titles to date. It's also very important to know that player counts for PC on Battlefield 5 are still fairly healthy, probably not as high as say Battlefield 1, but there is definitely the ability to find a game in near enough every game mode, apart from probably the lower key ones that no one gives a fuck about. But in terms of breakthrough, in terms of grand operations, conquest, whatever, you will always be able to find a game. The game is not dead. The player base is definitely not dead. What I'm trying to get at here is that you can most definitely still find a game even with the absolute abomination that was the 5.2 patch. So if you are worried about not being able to even play multiplayer, please just don't consider that. You can definitely find a game. That is not something for you to worry about. So guys, that is just about all I have to say for today's video. I do just want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you guys enjoyed it, then please do feel free to leave a like on it. And if you guys could also subscribe to MZK, then that'd be absolutely fantastic. And as always, I will see you guys on my next video. This is SkintBoot, signing out.